call this meeting of the Kennedale Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. And we will begin by saying our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and you all may be seated. First on our agenda today will be a roll call, and we'll start with our members present. Ms. Cruz. I'm sorry, Mr. Serta.
Here.
Ms. V. Gomez.
Here.
Mr. Glovier.
Here.
Darrell Owens is here. Ms. Felicia Moody is absent. Ms. Douglas is absent. Dr. Douglas is absent. And also Ms. Cruz Perez will be absent tonight. But we do have a quorum of members. That's good enough for us to go and move forward. Okay? That's items 1 and 2. We'll then move to items number 3. All right, first we'll do any public comments on agenda items. And do we have anybody speak?
Nope.
No one is signed for any comments on agenda items. We'll then move to section 4, which are public comments on non-agenda items.
Yes.
And we do have one, and it is Mr. Daniel Bennett. Mr. Bennett, please come forward. Great. So we will go ahead and allow you up to 7 minutes today.
I'll just take 3.
Okay, well, great. We appreciate that.
You bet. Dr. G, President Owens, I've come down here from time to time to speak with you about TAD issues. This is a very important appointment process. Have you all received a video from Mr. Fred Campos? If you haven't, I'm going to make sure you get it. White Settlement was this district at the TAD meeting a Thursday a week ago. There was 40 or 50 people in that room. Well, I think Joe Don Bobbitt needs to do a better job outreach. Mr. Campos was at that meeting, and they spoke to many of the issues with the property value study and where each district was. So I'm surprised you weren't there. He has photos, so you need to get the photos. I'm here to also talk about Ms. Winnie Burgess. She's sitting as tax assessor collector. Back in 2020, at the February 14th meeting, at the 45:22 mark, she said about me, "You have the absolute ability to go around and say whatever you like, whether true or not, to any group you wish." Speaking directly to me in a public meeting. So I take a little bit difference of her comment towards me. I want to apologize first, as I have Eagle Mountain Saginaw. If I ever come down here and misled this board, you get my humble apology today. I think I've been a good steward of your time, good steward of information. I walked out that door that day with Mayor Hook from Blue Mound, Mayor Jacobs out of Lakeside, Mayor Newton out of Colleyville, and Mayor Trong out of Haltom City. All 4 mayors who were my guests that day said I did not deserve that. TAD has been under the microscope as of late, but back then, nobody cared as long as you got your certified role. And all the issues I brought forward to you, Ms. Burgess took the counter argument. Mr. Bennett, we don't agree, but we're still friends. The night when she was running against Mike Snyder, she was at a meeting, and Ron Wright, our tax assessor collector at the time, from that podium, I asked a question. I said, what can these candidates speak to what they're going to do to reform TAD? Well, he looked at me and he pointed at me in a room of 500 people and said, if you want to know anything about TAD, you talk to that gentleman right there. That night I reached out to Ms. Burgess and Mr. Snyder. Neither wanted anything to do with me. So the fundamental issues that are affecting our appraisal district are still an element today. And it was propagated by the people who were elected back then. Mike O'Donnell from Arlington ISD, he got on that board in 2013. He allowed that software to go live. When Ms. Burgess was put on that board after getting elected, that software was allowed to emanate and propagate and continue, even though it never worked. The first thing that Joe Don Bobbitt did when he got there on February 1st, we need $3 million for new software. Even somebody from Waco knew. So what was Ms. Burgess doing? Now she's a candidate to be on the board. Are we gonna go back and making the same mistakes by giving votes to somebody that had a chance to fix it, had a chance to come to me not because I knew everything, I don't know everything, but Ron Wright felt that I had enough information that was important for her to contact me. She never did. Unfortunately, Mr. Wright died of lung cancer. He was a great guy. He was the start of the reform of TAD. He did it with me, and then he ran for Congress, but that's another story. So as you do your appointments, the issues that I have been bringing forward to you for the last 7 years are still there. And it's been propagated by the people that have been sitting there. They don't deserve your vote. We need to get people that's gonna look out for the taxing entities, the taxpayers, and the staff. There's 3 hats to wear in that place. And I just wanna make sure you understand the history of how important this appointment is. I won't get into all the backwater, you've all heard it. I wanna thank you for your time. And as we move forward, I will still come down here and give you the poop. I got the latest information. I'll just share this with you. I cut it off at the pass. I was understanding they were going to convert the data on their own. We have $800,000 in the budget to convert data to True Prodigy. Well, they're going to try to save $800,000. Why? We spent the money, convert the data, get it working. That's where we made our first mistake back in 2014, the conversion of the data. Let's not make that same mistake twice. And I want to thank you for your time, and I'll make sure Fred gets his video to you. It's 3 minutes. He's an IT background, he's an IT genius, and he has your back. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bennett. Okay, so that takes care of section 4, which is the public comments on non-agenda items. We'll next move to section 5, and that's the special district recognitions. And Dr. G.
All right, we will start off with our principal recognition month. So our principals who worked very hard, and I will say this year, everything that I've been hearing from our campuses when I go around and visit with our staff, and I said this to them in a meeting yesterday, yeah. Everything's been very positive, and you know, our staff talks about the expectations are clear, and they talk about the support that they get from their administrators and campuses and our staff and our people. And so I think that, you know, it's very well deserved that we get to recognize them. I don't have, for some reason, it's not pulling out the declaration from Governor Abbott. So
I have it.
You want to read it for me?
I will.
All right, thank you, because mine's not pulling out.
From the office of the State of Texas, Office of the Governor. Principals are tasked with a singularly noble task, the education of Texas children. Our children will ultimately determine the future of Texas, and the promise of a bigger tomorrow can be shaped profoundly by a principal. The Texas education system depends upon the leadership and dedication of capable principals. They cast a vision for their schools and work tirelessly to realize it. Principals are not only a source of inspiration for the students, but they are also a leader for the teachers and staff. They inspire their teachers and give the very best for their students, who will give their very best in return. An adept communicator, a firm disciplinarian, a savvy analyst, and a judicious policymaker, a good principal is crucial to student success. Each year, the month of October is set aside to honor principals, to commend them for their invaluable role that they play in our educational system and our future. The Lone Star State owes a debt of gratitude to these men and women who represent the best of Texas values. At this time, I encourage all Texans to educate themselves about the contribution principals have made to our great state. Principals' drive for excellence will ensure that our future will be better and brighter for all. Therefore, I, Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas, do hereby proclaim October 24th to be Principals Month.
Okay. So, as I was saying, you know, your efforts greatly appreciated. I want you to know that they haven't gone unnoticed this year. It's a tireless, thankless job sometimes, and lots of hours and sleepless nights and lots of weekend work, but you guys have done a great job and really appreciate your efforts. If I could have Ms. West and Dr. Vu come down and.
Can we give them a round of applause before we do that?
We're gonna take pictures with them here in a minute, so we're gonna bring them down one at a time, so. Ms. Wells, if you will come down.
Yay, Ms. Wells.
No, you're fine.
Nephew will go wait right over there.
Cute.
Want those pickles?
But it never has
All
been.
right, Ms. Clark.
Ms. Clark.
That was clever. Those were really good pickles.
Yeah, I'm gonna let them know if they don't want any. I would take them.
Really?
The jalapenos are the best.
Yeah, they're good.
By the way, it says, you can't read it, says, you take the cake, it's a big, nice butt cake, you know.
And what does it say on the pickles?
And the pickles say never a dull moment. That's your favorite thing, it's so real.
All right. Four.
Oh, I heard that. It's good. It's good.
And Ms. Bruce.
Ms. Bruce.
And last but not least, Gabe.
Mr. Dago.
Hadn't eaten dinner, so this is good.
Dig in back there.
I'll do this right here.
Going for the, yeah, you get a hug.
Appreciate it.
Like your haircut, Mr. Cagle.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And I love these pickles. Are these the spicy ones? Yeah, they are. They're good.
All right.
Just for the places you can know. I love this.
So if you guys will line up, we'll get a picture of y'all first, and then we'll bring the board in with you.
Gentlemen, be careful with the cord.
Yes, watch the trap. A little matrix happening
Oh,
here.
it says the guy that's about to fall.
It's the only one in
I've done my slips, trips, and all.
Don't worry, everyone in this room is separate, is trained in bloodborne pathogens.
Good?
Yes. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Well deserving.
Watch your step.
I don't know, usually, it's not even, it's me.
In your trap.
This is my lane. Stay in your lane, Steve. Sorry.
Cross my board.
Like 6 years old, I'll cross the line. Get him. That's
Worried
right.
about how we're gonna divide this up, but we'll be all right.
All right.
All right, so next we'll go with Dr. G. Now we're still on the fall board next.
Yeah, so we have Paul Awards, and so we will start with our list. Who's going first?
I guess I'll go
All right.
first.
Go ahead.
All right. So I have Kennedy High School. First award goes to Abel Rico, Demora Jones, Eric Esquita, Michael Cagle, Mrs. Owens, Stephanie Sheppy, Taylor Hudson, and Wendy Hill. Hope I said those names right.
I've got the Kennedale Junior High School, Angela Bruce, Caitlin Grant, Catalina Martinez, Kathleen Buckles, Chad Laughlin, Channing Bullard.
With 2.
Sorry, Chad Laughlin with 2. Thank you. Channing Bullard, Charity Simmons with 2. Chris Farmer, Chris Hartsfield, Chris Wilson, and then Debbie Webb with 2. Emma Powell, Heather Beach with 2. Jessica Gilbert with 3. Johnny Walker, Carrie Carr, Christy Dunn, Michaela Schrum, Megan Lockwood with 2. Robin Fleeman with 2. And Taylor Ferris with 2.
I will do Patterson, Art Patterson. That's Amy Heisenroder. Thank you very much. Beatrice Ortiz, Caroline Clark, Demisha King, Josh Smith, Lupe Garcia Marcelano has 2. Priscilla Hightower, Rachel Rigsby, and Sarah Martinez.
And I have Delaney, Brooke Rhodes, Kathy Nevins, Janet Fareed, Kelsey Matthews, Melina Perry, Melissa Crabtree, Natalie Ayton, Stephanie Stevens, and Tricia Poore. And then for central office, we have April Ward, Brandy King, Dr. Julie Liu, Dr. Toya Keys with 2, Melissa Springfield, Shanna Harrigan, and Tracy Gray. And then from Arthur, we have,
I can do, or you want me to do this? So for Arthur, we have Sonia Pittman, is it Venice and Hensley? Hinsley? And then for facilities and maintenance, we have, oh, it's not on here, okay. We also have Amanda Holbeisch and then Brandy Rasmussen, thank you. And then for facilities and maintenance, we have Guy White and then Jeff Leaha. And Angie Goodwin. Yes. Godwin.
Congratulations to all the Paul recipients.
Okay, and I have the Paul Awards where I read out the comments. This month, chosen Caitlin Grant, volleyball coach and teacher at KJHS. Coach Grant needs to be recognized because she has taught me so much. I don't know if I've learned as much from a teacher as I have from her, and we're only in the 10th week of school. She makes sure that everybody understands what we're learning and goes out of her way to explain it. She is also an amazing volleyball coach and always has confidence in me, sometimes more than I have in myself. I am just so grateful for Coach Grant, and I'm so lucky to have her as a teacher and coach, student at KJHS. April Ward, speech language pathologist. Ms. Ward is an amazing speech pathologist. She goes above and beyond for her students that she services. My son enjoys seeing Ms. Ward and learning with her. His communication skills have improved significantly in the time she has worked with him, and he has grown so much. She is always willing to listen and answer questions that I might have. She goes above and beyond to offer suggestions, charts, or different incentives that might motivate Mason and ultimately help him become successful. We appreciate all of your hard work, parent at JFD. And then Ms. Demisha King, counselor at RF Patterson. Mrs. King has a heart for our students, and it shows in everything she does for them. She is patient, kind, and attentive to their needs, and I am always positively impacted by watching her work. Mrs. King opens her arms and her door to staff and students alike. Her calming, understanding demeanor makes everybody feel safe and loved. Thank you, Mrs. King, for making Patterson and KISD better every day. Teacher at RFP. So, congratulations to everybody with the Paul Awards and for those special recognitions there at the end. I would also point out that our principals were also on this list, so that's amazing. So I appreciate all of you, and once again, thank you for everything you do, and thanks for our staff that come to work every day and do what they do with kids and everybody else.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
good job, everyone.
Awesome. So we'll now move to section 6, which is our consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, all the items under this subheading will be adopted with one motion unless they are removed from the consent agenda by a trustee for discussion. And there's been no request to remove anything, so I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. Glovier,
Second.
and second by Ms. Debbie Villa Gomez. All in favor of accepting the consent agenda, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay? And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move to section 7, which is our information-only section, and we'll start with 7A, our construction project update.
Okay, our monthly visit from Robert.
Good evening, Dr. G, board members. Good to be with you. I'll try to keep pace with how fast you guys are moving tonight. Bring you up to speed on things that are going on. As you know, we've got a lot of activity and there's soon to be more on the projects. We'll start with roofing. You can see a marked difference in how the high school roof is looking. We're about 90% done with the cap sheet, both at the main high school and at the Performing Arts Center. There'll be sheet metal work. There'll be some flashing going on in the coming weeks. Kettle work we hope to be done this week. We've got an alternative to address the small canopies that are around the pack. Rather than move that kettle from canopy to canopy to canopy, we've got an adhered system that we're looking to get approved to knock that out, but we hope the kettle will be gone this week. We'll let you guys know we'll be coming back at the next meeting with the change order. We've found actually quite a few situations once we peeled the roof back at the high school that don't necessarily meet code, at least current code, and in order to help the long-term performance of the roof, we've made a lot of changes. But where the second-story addition was constructed, there were, at the time, prior to that, overflow scuppers that dropped off that side of the building. When they built the addition, they pretty much closed off all the scuppers. So, even though you haven't had a problem since then with all the toad stranglers that you guys have had over the last couple of years, both the engineer, OBR, and the roofer are concerned if we don't bring it up to current code, and there's a problem, then there could be a lot of finger pointing. So we're actually going to install 15 additional roof drains, overflow drains, along the edge of the two-story addition. It's a bit of a challenge because we have to penetrate the low roof, go through the wall of the original building into the space between the two floors of the addition and bring it out the other side of the school. It's a big number, but we've got about $2 million left in the roofing budget. It's gonna be somewhere around $200,000. We're scrubbing it, the engineer's scrubbing it, but we're gonna bring that back to you for consideration and get that done so we can get out of this, get off the campus and get out of Mr. Cagle's hair. I think it's a good move. I think it's good to get it done. We had some other options with some scuppers on the edge, but the code says you've got to have one overflow drain for every drain on the roof. And you guys are well short of that, so we want to go ahead and get those installed and put everybody's mind at ease so that you guys have a roof that drains as it should. At the junior high, you can see how different the roof is there. Another thing we found here was that the clear story, where you walk through the corridors, you look up and you've got the glass windows up high. That paneling wasn't flashed properly around the windows, and you've been dealing with leaks for years at the junior high. It's also had exposed fasteners on that metal siding, which have in some cases backed out, created other areas for leaks. So through our contingency, we've moved forward with taking all of that siding off and replacing it. That material's available, but we should be out of the junior high within the next 2 weeks, metal and all. They're moving hard to do that. You remember the splotchy roof that I showed you at Patterson the last couple of meetings. We've got a couple of small sections that are getting a final coat this weekend. We're doing the coating on the weekend so we don't give the teachers' cars and visitors' cars a nice coating as well. But we'll knock that out and be done. We've scheduled our final walkthrough for that for next week. We'll punch that out and be done with Patterson. We've got units coming in December, and hope to start our massive rooftop replacements over the holidays at some of the campuses. PAC sound system's been a little bit frustrating, actually in a lot of ways very frustrating. They've had some staffing issues, had to go back and redo a couple of things, but we're looking to do our final walkthrough and commissioning next week, and we've scheduled training for staff for the week of November 4th. The high school additions are coming along. We've just about knocked out the 100 wing, should be done this week. We've scheduled the move for teachers back into that wing for the weekend of 11/2. We've already started getting materials lined up and getting things staged so that once we get those folks moved out, we'll transition and start knocking out the 300 wing. This is going to be sort of a leapfrog effort as we go through the high school. We're also looking at we've got materials ordered, things laid out. I believe we've got the final site permit from the city, so we'll be looking to start the additions to the high school in the near future. Possibly, we might wait till after the first of the year with Thanksgiving right around the corner, then Christmas break, getting those guys mobilized and then losing them over the holidays kind of hurts production. So we're thinking we might just get everything staged, get everything wound up and hit it hard after the first of the year. Junior high, been a long process. We've worked with Ms. Bruce and the contractor on how we can get in there with a school that's busting at the seams and actually get some renovation work. It's going to be a challenge. We've actually called an audible and we're looking at a possibility of bringing in some portable buildings, as many as 8, so that we can move out students en masse to a self-contained modular assembly, so the kids aren't, walking to a bunch of different portables, but actually to a mobile complex, if you will, so that we can get in and knock out large areas at a time and do the same thing at the junior high that we're doing at the high school and propose to do at Delaney and Patterson. The staff has been great, had some great ideas, looking to have the job trailer on site this week, fencing up next week, trying to dance around the roofer just a little bit, but Ms. Bruce has been very accommodating in how we get this done. Our biggest challenge is maintaining access for technology to their shop back there. They haul a lot of equipment in and out of there, so we've got to maintain access to their structure, but at the same time, give us room back there to get the addition done. But things are moving forward with Steel Freeman for the junior high project. Warehouse, we're making a mess. We've gone in, done a lot of demo, continue to do that. We're staking the outside, getting it ready for the new loading dock, all the new parking and drive that's going along out there. And that project's coming along nicely, and if we haven't told you, we're looking to have that done by early spring of next year. And that in and of itself is a bit of a chicken and the egg thing, because obviously with everything going at the junior high, we want technology to move, and this building will be ready for them, but I think Mr. Franklin's a little nervous about a mid-semester move for your technology, the heart of your technology, but we'll work around that. This project is coming along nicely as well. Delaney, CDs are done. We put it out on the streets Monday. We've scheduled our pre-bid conference for the 4th of November, and we look to have bids by the 12th. Depending on how the numbers come in, we might catch your late November meeting. We're planning on December for a GMP approval, but with that date, we're remaining hopeful. But right now, the estimates look good, and we're hoping we can get good coverage and good pricing for you guys and have good news for you next month or December for Delaney. Patterson, we're continuing to work with the design team and staff on how we might phase this project. CDs are looking pretty good. We'll be back in November to present the design development for this project and have this thing ready to go out to bid in early 2025. Here's your budget summary. Much like last month, we're still in good shape. We haven't committed any big dollars since last month. Maybe November we'll be bringing Delaney back to you, but we're still sitting good with our budget overall. You'll notice on roofing, there's almost a $2 million budget balance there, so that's why I don't really have reservations about recommending that you guys address the drain challenge that we identified once we pulled the old roof off. But overall, we're in great shape. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
I've got 3, if you don't.
Lay 'em on.
Unless somebody else got. I'll start with the last one first. With the additional overflows that we're going to be added to the high school, how long do you estimate that's going to extend that project?
Well, all that, we're going to probably move forward with it in advance of your formal approval, just to keep it rolling, and they hope to be out of there by the end of November with everything.
Okay.
That was the last
You had
question, 3.
3.
Yeah.
You go first.
Okay, so my next 2 were on the junior high school. You mentioned bringing in mobile units for self-contained classrooms. What are we talking about there? Just like band and choir, or are we talking about?
No, we're talking instructional classrooms. So just imagine instead of portables just lined up with canopies going to all of them, we're actually going to the portable modular structure is actually assembled together, so students will go into a central entry into sort of a collection hall and then have access to each one of the buildings. So those students will be self-contained within a single structure versus multiple individual structures. That makes sense?
I got that, yeah, multiple, like one big wing connected.
Just imagine an old, like a wing at Patterson.
Yeah.
Except instead of a structural wing, it's a modular wing with an enclosed hallway, and those students are contained for safety, security, that type of thing.
And what grades are you talking about moving?
Well, they're all the kids. We're gonna move kids out in phases based on, it may be one grade at a time, it may be programs at a time. But we'll work with Ms. Bruce to make sure that once those students are out there, we're not getting those kids can pretty much be self-contained throughout the day as much as we can and not have them moving back and forth a lot. Of course, they'll have to go back for lunch, athletics, PE, that type of thing. But what's most important is the transition time to have as minimal amount of time for students to be outside and migrating between spaces.
My question was around those buildings as well. Is that gonna fall within our budget or fall into the contingency? How does
Yes,
that gonna
that's
affect
that's the intent, is to bring it in, because it's a trade-off. We either have extended general conditions for the general contractor because we have to hit it over 2 or 3 summers versus pay for those portable buildings over the course of 12 months and get the whole building done. So we're gonna roll that within our contingency and knock it out.
Okay.
That's the hope.
So it'll be 12 months that we'll need these portable buildings?
We're still working through the space planning, but we're gonna, for instance, we'll probably get into Patterson next summer and knock it out. If we can start early in Delaney throughout the school year, they have swing space within the building. We'll start that almost immediately and hopefully be done by the end of next summer. You've got a little more real estate with the junior high as you do with the high school, so it will take upwards of 12 months to get it done. Be my expectation. But realistically, when you think about the large addition that's taking place in the back, it would still probably, if we don't have it, if we can get it started now, we might end up into the following fall semester finishing up some of the interior spaces. But our goal is to not take it all the way to the summer of 2026, if we can avoid that.
Additional questions?
Just one comment for me. Just comment, I mean, I know it's a lot of work and some of it, you could smell the kettles and stuff, but I mean, looking at the pictures and, I mean, the roofs look good and we're gonna get new facilities or new roof for the school, so
Yeah.
I'm really happy that it's happening and it's getting done, so.
Thank you. It's coming along.
And just like other projects too, I was thinking that, I'm glad that you mentioned, we're not just gonna put a Band-Aid on something to speed up a completion.
Yeah.
We're gonna fix what needs to be fixed to make it, so I'm always for that, and I know that's hard for, it's hard for anyone for a project to take so much longer than it is intended, and it's uncomfortable, but I would rather it be done correctly and have a better long-term viability.
And I appreciate that, and we don't necessarily bring it up in these meetings, but when we bring a GMP to you, or any stipulated lump sum from the contract, we always would maintain a responsible contingency component that allows us, with your approval, through that contingency, the opportunity to keep the ball rolling. And when we find issues like that, we address that. And if you guys would like, we can bring you a contingency summary for all the projects, of the things just like that we've identified. We need to do this right. Let's take the money out and let's address that. And we haven't built Dr. G a new sauna anywhere, and there's not any things like that. These are really, addressing things that should have been addressed when the buildings were built originally. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ron.
All right.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
All right. Move to 7B, it's the ESL Emergent Bilingual Program Review.
All right, voting is coming down.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You have in your board book the annual program evaluation for our bilingual and ESL program. We bring it to you every fall. I won't go through it since you've read it, but I'll touch on some highlights and then answer any questions that you have. So it's sectioned. The first section is a student profile. And based on the last few years, this is pretty consistent. We hover around the same number of languages, give or take a couple. We're at 25. And for the last 8 years, from the data that we've looked at, we've been at about 70% of our students are Spanish speaking. So, and the rest are spread among the others. So that's consistent. What is changing is our number of EB students. We continue to see growth from year to year. You can see on the chart in that section that we have 415 at last year's snapshot versus 354 from the year before. Our percentages continue to go up. A few years ago, we were under 10. Last year, we were at almost 12, and actually today, we're at 15%. And we know that we will gain more students likely if the patterns continue throughout the year. The second section talks about our program content and design. These are the same 3 programs that we've had. We have Transitional Early Exit Bilingual at JAA and JFD, and then we have English as a second language, ESL, from pre-K to 12 at all of our schools. And those programs are explained in the report. Section 3 is our English proficiency and reclassification. Of course, our goal for our English learners or emergent bilingual is to get them to the point of English proficiency as quickly as we can and exit them from the program or reclassify them. You can see in the chart, we've made a lot of gains from last year to this year, so this was a big celebration for us. You see the number of students went from 4 to 48. I looked at the percentages, and at every campus, we went from single-digit percentage of our students being reclassified to double digits this year. So that was a great celebration for us. And we know that there are a lot of students that are getting close, and we're monitoring their data really carefully, so we'll get them over the hump next year.
I'm glad you talked about this because I noticed this prior to the meeting and I was going to ask a question. So what do you think mostly contributed to the, because that's a huge jump for 1 year.
There's a lot. We've put a lot of emphasis on the data. We have more data options now. So we started progress monitoring in the last few years with less links, and it mimics TELPOS. And so we have a couple of times during the year where we actually look at exactly where the students would be. We're working with a program called Summit K-12 that is specifically for language acquisition, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But we've been expanding that program, and so students are on there, and they're assessed with benchmarks, and then they're given a path, a learning plan to really work through that. And education, we have a lot of returning leaders at the campus that are coming back and meeting with us monthly, and so we've all put our heads together. We're just working really hard with that and the strategies and the training. So I think it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things, but
Okay.
definitely a team effort.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next section is student performance data. And when we talk about our student performance data, we're talking about state testing here and our TELPOS. And I know that you hear about TELPOS in different presentations that Dr. Vu does. So I'll tell you a little bit about these charts. The first chart just says, what's the composite rating? So what's the overall language acquisition of the student? We have 4 domains, reading, writing, speaking, and listening, but there's an overall. And so you can see that we broke down what % of the students fell in each of those averages. So what we look at is the advanced and the advanced high to see progress. And in our K2 band, which is a band that is reported out by the state, we had a 2-point gain, and in our 312, we had a 6-point gain. So that was another celebration. We have had a lot of celebrations with emergent bilingual. We have a long way to go, but we have some good data here. And then in the second chart.
This category is also why I asked about that, because several numbers did go down. So
Yes,
that's why I was
so
curious.
in order, as part of the reclassification process to exit from bilingual programming,
You
there's a
tested
few
that.
data points, but one of them is that you have to have basically a 3.5, which is an average between an advanced and advanced high. You have to have at least 2 advanced highs, and you have to have 2 advanced. So when we look at it, we want to have fewer students coming out in the beginning and intermediate categories. We want more students in the advanced and the advanced high.
Do they test in TELPAS before exiting, or do they test?
Yes, that's part of,
Okay, that's
that
okay.
is part of, there are rubrics, there's a reading test, there's a number of things, recommendations, and,
I didn't know if that was part of the decrease, if
they
there's
have
a
to
big-
have a specific TELPAS score to be eligible for a classification. Yeah,
Did
I'm-
some of this also happen to be because of the change in how it was graded, as
Yeah,
opposed to
well,
having like
Yes,
people
yes.
grading it versus is
Yeah.
just the computer now,
Thank you
I
for bringing
believe?
that up. A few things happened there. Yes,
Okay.
they moved more to the computer, and they also changed the reclassification requirements. And so the jump was higher because of some of those changes. And then there used to be holistic grading for writing, but in the last couple of years, they've changed that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, the state's gone through a lot of changes. That's why in some of these charts, you won't see any data
Yeah,
because of that
that's why I just wanted
transition.
to talk through some of that.
Gotcha.
Yes, that makes sense. Great questions. This is such a complicated program.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'll have all the answers,
No,
but
and
I'll
that,
try.
and that's okay too, I just, some
Yeah.
of it just came to me.
So,
I don't
yes,
mean
so
to
that's why
just-
we're looking for more students to fall in the advanced and advanced high and fewer to fall in the beginning and the intermediate, because that's part of their
Yeah.
reclassification.
Thank you.
Sure. And then the second chart, the main thing we want to see is growth. So we want to see every student go up at least one proficiency level. If they can go up more than one, that's great. And growth is also part of our accountability system in that 3 to 12 category. So if you look at our 3 to 12, 43% of our students progressed at least one proficiency level, and the state was at 32%. So that was a really good data point for us to be that much above the state and know that had we had accountability, we would have seen those points, and we would have seen, most importantly, that students are at that level, of course. But reaching those targets has been difficult for us at times in the past, and so to be that much above, when accountability comes out someday, we'll see some of that as well. Okay, and then section 5 is staffing and training. This is pretty consistent. We have required trainings from the state, and that's all on the chart. One of the things we did differently last year is we brought Region 11 out for a 3-hour training back to school, and they went to each campus so that they could work with that level and those teachers, and specifically focused on newcomer strategies because we had so many more newcomers, but also any student that's at those low levels of proficiency in language, they were giving them some more, solid vocabulary and solid strategies so that everyone could be speaking the same language. So that was a little bit different what we did last year. And then with our staffing, the district is great about making sure that teachers are certified. We haven't had to submit any waivers or anything like that. What we mainly changed last year is with the addition of students, we added an additional para. And the paras are district, but they're assigned to the campus. So that enabled us to have one person focused at K-5 and one person at 6-12, which is a really great benefit because they were consistently in classrooms with the same teachers and the same students. And that continues this year. Okay, and then our last section, most importantly, how do we build upon what we're doing and improve in the needed areas? There are recommendations. So remember, this is last year, so these are our recommendations for this current year. And again, I won't read these, but I just want to touch on a couple of things that we're 2 months into the school year, some of the things that we've done so far in these, to address these recommendations. So one area is building capacity. We all have so much to learn, all the leaders, teachers, central office, campus. And we know that the type of support that is most effective is frequent, embedded, and personalized. And so we have really cross-trained our instructional services department on all the strategies in our library. We have a lot of resources that have been there and we've been using them, but we are all training and all participating in supporting teachers in their day-to-day lessons. So having the instructional coaches has been amazing because they have been able to take these things out in a bite size, bring it to the PLCs and say, hey, what do you want to try? And really teach them these structures and their strategies. And so we're all working with department chairs and Dr. Keyes continues to work with the campus leaders. And like I said, I think that's part of the successes is we've had consistent people for several years that are doing state testing and are doing emergent bilingual, and they've just been building and building the capacity of their teams. And then on the second section, which is resources that directly affect parents and students. The fourth bullet, we have a brand new hands-on and visual materials library that is specifically focused on grade level vocabulary across the 4 content areas. And so our elementary para uses progress monitoring and aligns with what units are being taught and really works with those students. There's always a gap between social language and academic language, and we see that in our progress monitoring. And so trying to build up that academic language and pre-teaching them, and we're gonna see how our data looks once we do a little bit more of that front loading of that vocabulary and give those students actual experiences with speaking the vocabulary. And then the first bullet, that I touched on this from your question, Summit K-12 is a big program that we've done over the last 3 years. So this is our 3rd year, and we're expanding it to JAA. We started with secondary, and then we went to elementary 2nd and up, and now we're doing kinder and first. And that has been a big player in being able to immediately get students into an adaptive plan on where they need to go. And a lot of students are not as comfortable with speaking, but it so gives them the opportunity to stay on the program and practice the speaking. And so that's been great that we've been expanding that. It's specifically geared toward the 4 domains on TELPAS. And then if you haven't heard, we've had a great Summit K-12 week. I don't know if you've heard this or not. But we received a recognition, the district received a recognition from Summit K-12, our partners there. We found out in the fall that we were nominated, we didn't even know this existed, but we were nominated as a finalist for, they call it the Summies. And what was exciting about it was based on high usage across all the components, and there were 750 districts across the state that they looked at. And so we had high usage across everything, the quizzes, the instruction, all the things that the campuses have been working so hard to build in with all the other programs because they feel so strongly about it. And the second thing that they looked at was TELPAS growth across all of those districts. So we were told that we were finalists, and they required a nominee interview, and Dr. Keyes, I'm sure she put us over the top. She's so enthusiastic and dedicated to this program. So she did the nominee interview with them, and then last week we were at our state conference, TABE, which is bilingual education, and we went to do the recognition, and we were announced as first place. So yeah, and of course the recognition's nice, and it is one of our vendor partners, but such a great group of people among that community that really care about students, and to see that there were only 5 categories. We were in the small district category based on our number of students out of 750, and just all these people reaching out and saying, how did you do it? It wasn't easy. We're in our 3rd year of this, but the campuses really have, it's just a shout out to them because they've worked really hard to make this work because it matters. And one of our favorite parts was getting the letters from the secondary students that talked about how impactful this program has been to them, because it's hard to do a second language and to have to speak and all of that. And I think Dr. Keyes had shared that with our partners, and that was definitely our favorite part of all of this. So we've been very lucky to have the resources to do this. And one thing we noticed when we were there is that they give teacher and campus awards. So we are hoping that next year, it's a great conference, we're hoping that we can take some people that are nominees with us to learn all about bilingual and EB education, and that they'll be there getting awards as well. So that was our excitement this week.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations again.
So what other questions do you have?
No other questions?
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Good job. Very good job, yes. All right. That completes section 7. We'll now go to section 8, which are business items requiring action. So we'll move first to 8A, which is discuss and consider the approval of the district improvement plans and campus improvement plans. Dr. G, I guess that's up for you to do. All right.
So last month, I brought you the drafts of the campus improvement plans and the district improvement plans. Since that time, all of these drafts of each of the plans have been reviewed and feedback provided by the site-based committee. So each campus has a committee made up of a variety of stakeholders, including the district improvement plan. So what I've come here tonight to ask you is to approve the performance objectives. So I provided the entire plan for you as a PDF so that you can see some of the updates and edits that have been made. But in terms of what the request for approval, it's the performance objectives. And the reason we are only asking for approval of those is, number one, it's board policy. So it asked for that in board policy. But number two, the strategies, we monitor them throughout the year. And so as we're doing our formative reviews, sometimes we may find the strategies not having the intended impact that we thought that it would. And so the strategies can be more fluid and can evolve over time. Once you approve the performance objectives, they're set. Do you have any questions?
I think there was the presentation last month was pretty good in detail, and I think we kind of, well, at least I got my questions out
Yeah.
then. So, in addition,
No questions for me.
Okay.
I don't think we have any additional plans, so if no additional questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I move to approve the performance objectives of the district improvement plan and the campus improvement plans as presented.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Glover and second by Mr. Serta. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
We'll then move to 8B, discuss and consider the use of LASSO grant funds for Region 11 implementation support.
Hi, it's my first time up here tonight. Last year, we, KISD, we applied for the Strong Foundations grant, and we received it. With this grant, came through LASSO 2, Cycle 2. We were able to use the funds to purchase print materials for Amplify and Eureka. Amplify, we are in year 2 of implementation. Eureka, we are in year 1. We were also able to purchase implementation support. We have partnered with our Education Service Center, Region 11, and so they are able to come in and give us in-person training, and not virtually, but in person. And so tonight, I am asking for us to continue to use those funds so that we can continue to receive our support.
And this is solely for Amplify and Eureka?
In Eureka,
Math?
yes, sir.
That's
The
all.
campuses that are impacted are elementary, JAA, Patterson, and Delaney.
Okay. All right.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Of
So,
course,
refresh my memory. So Eureka Math is obviously math
yes.
and Amplify.
Is reading, our reading
Reading,
curriculum, yes, for K through 5. We also have Amplify 6 through 8, but this grant is only for K through 5,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
All right. Any additional questions? I think it's been positively impactful.
Yes,
Correct.
definitely,
Okay.
yes.
Any questions? All right. Well, then I will entertain another motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the use of LASSO grant funds towards Region 11 implementation support for Amplify Texas and Eureka Math as presented.
Second.
That was presented by Mr. Serta and second by Mr. Glover. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank
as
you.
well. Thank you. Okay, that concludes section 8, and we'll then move to section 9, which is the superintendent's report.
We're gonna go quickly here. We've got a couple of things under superintendent's report. Enrollment update, you have the numbers. Our numbers have pretty much stabilized from the beginning of the year. They were kind of fluctuating a lot at the beginning, but we pretty much stabilized, and we were at 2761 students. Our attendance is currently at around 95.34% for the district. Each campus is roughly around 95%. Junior high's at 96%, and Arthur is at 93%, so those balance out to put us at about 95 for every campus. Okay. All right, and then the second part of my report would be the personnel report. I had a request from Mrs. Cruz Perez about our classroom. You had approved waivers for the classroom sizes for our kindergarten and first grade and for our bilingual class at Delaney. So she wanted kind of an update of where that's at. So at JAA, due to increased class sizes in kindergarten and first grade at JAA, the district added an FTE for each grade level. Ms. Wells hired for both positions, kindergarten on September 19th and first grade on October 1st. The current student-to-teacher ratio is now at 19-1 in both kindergarten and first grade classrooms.
Awesome.
And then Delaney, due to the class size of the second grade bilingual class, the district added an additional FTE to support the teacher and students. On October 3rd, 2024, a bilingual paraprofessional position was posted, and to date, there has been one applicant. Ms. Poore interviewed the applicant last week, who then turned down the position. So we're still looking there. You see the other current, our current vacant positions, district, we have an LSSP and a DHP teacher / coach. High school has a security specialist. That has been very difficult to fill, very few applicants. Junior high school, we have a SPED teacher for essential academics. JFD, we have the bilingual para and a crossing guard, which is also proved very difficult. Both of those have proved difficult to fill. JA, a SPED teacher for our base classroom, and a pre-K para, and a behavioral interventionist para, and a PE para. Mrs. Well has intent to hire the current long-term sub that's in the base classroom right now for the SPED for that position. Okay. She just got her certification, and I think that that went through yesterday. Is that right, Ms. Wells? For the SPED position. Okay, so yeah, so that should be getting filled permanently. Okay. So that's kind of where we are on that, and I've got other things that we will be discussing in closed session. So.
Any other questions for Dr. G regarding superintendent's report? All right, great. All right, then now we'll close out section number 9. We'll then move to section 10, which is going to be board discussions. So a couple of things I'd like to go ahead and mention. First of all, the special meeting training for the board with Walsh Gallegos. That's going to be November 19th at 6:30. And that will be at the CSS staff development room.
And Ashley had sent out 3 different dates. This date was the one that everybody could meet, and that would meet with the attorney. So.
Okay, and then also next regular board meeting, we're just going to have that for the 21st of November. And that will be obviously in this room, but it will be at 6:30 p.m. just as we started today.
And then, as Robert spoke about, we have a change order for the roof. I'm going to talk about in closed session some other needs for a special session, and so we may need to have another special session earlier in November to address those things.
Okay? We'll address that after we.
Yes.
Address it afterwards.
After, yeah.
Okay. All right, a couple upcoming events I'd like to go ahead and highlight. On the 1st, next Friday, Kennedy will be playing against Lake Worth Bullfrogs. That'll be here. And then the Cowtown Robotics Competition here at Kennedy High School. That's going to be taking place on November the 2nd. And then we had an awesome Veterans Day program last year, so I'm expecting this year's to be as great or greater. That will be held on November 11th at 6 o'clock in the PAC.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure at all, no pressure at all. And then on 11/13, the TASB conference, legal conference in Waco. And if you will, just tell Ashley if you want to attend, for that TASB legal conference.
Is that just for the day? I can't remember. I
I
remember
believe
seeing.
it is. You drive down that day and then drive back, so.
One day, okay. Okay.
Lunch
If I
at
remember
George's.
correctly, so.
I think
What's
that
that?
sounds
Lunch
right.
at George's.
Lunch at George's, okay.
George's.
We'll probably have lunch there.
Okay. Okay. All right, so that'll take care of the board discussions, and then Dr. G, resignation and retirement, that's 11A.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go into closed session.
Okay.
That and some other legal matters, and then we have some land discussions that we have to have as well.
Okay. We have our new hires listed here. Anything you want to highlight there?
My goodness, you put me on the spot.
I know.
Do you need this? Oh.
There you go.
We can touch it, well, I got it right here, so, I mean, I don't know what you want to know, but I mean, Ms. Haskins was with us, she had left and she came back to us, so that was, it kind of, I think she left and went to Mansfield, is that right? Yeah, and then she decided she wanted to come back here, so that's good. So,
I think the rest of the stuff you covered in your
Yeah.
other report, so that's good. All right, so then we have to go into a closed session for some other items. And so why don't we go and take a 5-minute recess? Okay? Why don't we take a 9-minute recess? That gives everybody an opportunity to kind of clear out. It is 7:41. We will come back in at 7:50. How about that? So at this point, we're going, this meeting is recessed. Thank you all.